Alright, the Lakers finally did it. They made their next move that we've been talking about. No, obviously we didn't know for sure the name they would add, but reports said that they would likely add a point of attack defender to their team. We didn't know if that would come through the trade market, free agent market, maybe the buyout market, and well, apparently it did happen to be the latter. According to reports and according to Shams Charania, the Lakers are agreeing to a contract with Marcus Smart, getting him through the buyout market, him coming from the Washington Wizards, another topic and another team we've talked about. Up until this point, they've carried too many players on their 15-man roster. Prior to waiving Marcus Smart, they had 17, and obviously that's too many for a 15-man roster. Prior to that, they waived Richaun Holmes, so it really did point to them waiving at least one more player from their team, either that being Marcus Smart and or Chris Middleton, and they obviously opted to waive Marcus Smart with him agreeing to give back some money to get the contract buyout. Now we haven't heard about how much money he gave back in the contract buyout, though we do have a pretty good hint here. As according to Shams Charania, the Lakers signed Marcus Smart to a 2-year, $11 million contract, pretty much hinting at the money he gave back and the amount he gave back, likely the full $11 million of that amount, or simply the $5 million for this season. You know, that does happen to be the exact number of the biannual exception, which can be offered up to a 2-year contract, and the 2 years coming out to exactly $11 million, so that's almost certainly what they offered him here. Though the only problem is that they currently don't have access to the full biannual exception amount. At the current moment, and even if they would waive Shake Milton, which is pretty much a guarantee at this point, they would only have 3.9 of the maximum $5.1 million amount to offer. So in addition to waiving Shake Milton, waiving his completely non-guaranteed $3 million salary for next season, that means they're likely waiving Jordan Goodwin with him, which is a little bit unexpected, but that would be the clearest pathway for them to get to that amount. If you're not aware, he does have a partially guaranteed contract, though the guaranteed amount is only $25,000 for next season. So waiving his $2.3 million salary, of which only $25K is guaranteed of, they would have the ability to get their full biannual exception amount and therefore offer it to Marcus Smart and give him that full amount. Now they could opt to make a trade instead, maybe salary dumping a guy like Gabe Vincent and or Maxi Kleber, though I really doubt that's what they do here, and the easiest and most likely pathway for them is to simply waive both Jordan Goodwin and Shake Milton. And again, I think we all knew that the waiving Shake Milton thing would happen here, him having the non-guaranteed salary and wasn't a part of the rotation last season, but Jordan Goodwin was. Now he kind of fell out of it during the playoffs and during the postseason rotation, played only about, I think, 9 total minutes, so wasn't a necessary addition to the rotation or a mainstay for their team, but he did have some good moments to their team, really being one of their few defensive-minded point-of-attack defenders. But now with them adding Marcus Smart, I definitely get it, and I'm not mad about it. Obviously, to get a former Defensive Player of the Year that's still pretty close to his prime, only 31 yet, definitely is a very good defender yet, can be their new point-of-attack defender that definitely gives them a more defensive-minded player, which again reports say they are looking for and that they have been trying to add for roughly a month at this point, so I get it, and I'm definitely not against them waiving Jordan Goodwin and or Shake Milton to get him. And talking more about Marcus Smart here, I think we all know what he offers, that being defense more than anything. Like I said, is a Defensive Player of the Year award winner back in 2021-22, winning that award with the Boston Celtics, becoming a Celtic and now becoming a Lakers, so is a little bit of a reverse action for Marcus Smart, kind of pulling a Rajon Rondo here, and hopefully it ends the same way for him, with an NBA championship to his name with Los Angeles Lakers. Though I will say that Marcus Smart is not quite the same player anymore. Hopefully he can get back to it, but throughout the past 2 years now, he definitely has been a little bit of a shell of his former self, averaging only 9 points per game last season, shooting roughly 39% from the field and 35% from 3, averaging about 2 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, over 1 steal per game, and simply not being the player that he was back with Boston, though he also wasn't playing the role that he filled with that team too, which obviously does affect him and did affect him quite a bit. However, the main problem with that and why he wasn't able to get or maintain that role to begin with is because he couldn't stay on the court. I mean, last season playing only 34 games in total, only 19 with Memphis prior to being traded, then only 15 thereafter at the trade deadline with the Washington Wizards. And then during the 2023-24 NBA season with Memphis, only playing a grand total of 20 games out of a possible 82. So combining for 54 games over the past 2 years now, that would be a career low for him in any one season alone prior to that point. So there are questions about Marcus Smart's health, his durability going forward, his ability to be given a big role on a team that he can maintain and obviously stay on the court to fill. That's the question with him, and now the question that he'll have to answer and hopefully prove wrong with the Lakers going forward. Which kind of comes to the question of what role will they or should they give him for that fact? Will he be a part of their starting lineup? Will he be a 6th man off the bench? Not even a 6th man, but more like a 7th to 9th man to simply bring energy and be a point of attack defender off the bench? Or what kind of role will he fill for their team? I've seen all different kind of takes about it already. Looking at NBA Twitter here, I see some people wanting him in the starting lineup, replacing a guy like Rui Hachimura, and then simply moving down both Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, kind of putting Marcus Smart at that point guard per se. You know, not that they need him to play point guard in that situation. Obviously having Luka, LeBron, Austin, all of which are good options, and even Marcus Smart's a pretty damn good point guard option too. You know, I've seen that, and I get it for the defensive reasoning. Him being a much better defender than any one of Luka, LeBron, and or Austin, or Rui Hachimura for that fact. Though he isn't quite big enough to take on the matchups that Luka or LeBron still would have to, or I guess even Austin Reeves at that point, isn't big enough to defend the medium to big sized wings out there. I mean, I'd probably still rather have him try and do it than either Luka or Austin Reeves, but also not the answer for that in my opinion. And with that in mind, I think the better option, or more likely option, is probably to have him come off the bench at least right away, giving them more of a 6th man for defensive purposes off the bench, also a point guard with one of Luka, LeBron, and or Austin going to the bench, then with Marcus Smart coming off the bench, maintaining another point guard and another ball handler in their lineup, so kind of having 2 or 3 of them on the court at all times, which is an obvious benefit. I think that's more likely route for them to take. You know, depending on what moves they make after this point, that might change for me. If they add a better 3-and-D wing or a better defensive-minded wing in general, then maybe you could make the argument to add both that player and Marcus Smart to the starting lineup, then bringing both Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves off the bench. You know, that could be an option. I wouldn't be against it, but that's kind of a hypothetical at this point. The way their team is right now and what we know about it with Marcus Smart coming in, I'm not sure I put him in their starting lineup quite yet. Yes, I get the argument for it, I get that they need and want more defense in there, but I'm not sure that's the best route for them to take. You know, in my opinion, this might be a bit controversial, I guess, but I might look to an old option in their starting lineup, a guy that they used to have in there for defense, and a guy that truly can defend 1 through 4 on the court in literally any and every matchup, that player being Jared Vanderbilt. Yes, he definitely has his own injury issues, kind of like Marcus Smart here, but if we're trying to better balance out the starting lineup, better balance out their defense, and actually have an answer for a guy that can take on any and every matchup on the perimeter, even at bigger wings and even at power forward for that fact, in every matchup for their team, then you might have to go with Jared Vanderbilt here. And the combination of both Jared Vanderbilt in the starting lineup, Marcus Smart coming off the bench, having a good rim protector like DeAndre Ayton finally now, you know, that could be a really good combination and maybe the best defensive combination for their team too. And yes, you might point to the offensive production, or rather lack thereof, with Jared Vanderbilt, mainly being the 3-point shooting and 3-point shooting reliability with him. Isn't known for it, isn't a great option up until this point, definitely would like for him to become that, but if we're also talking about Marcus Smart, not really talking about a guy that's a great 3-point shooter, I've seen some people refer to him as their new 3-and-D guard or 3-and-D defender, and I'm not sure he does enough to give him that 3 label of the 3-and-D. You know, up until this point, Smart's been a decent 3-point shooter at times, but definitely not a very good one. I mean, throughout his 11-year NBA career, only shooting above 35% from 3 one time, being a 32.4% career 3-point shooter. Even if we're talking about corner 3-point shooting, not a whole lot better, only being a 35.3% corner 3-point shooter. That's below average. You really would like to be around 37% from the corner, 35% from 3 in general, and he's simply not there. Again, definitely has had some good moments, has some good seasons of 3-point shooting in general, or from the corner, even having a 48% corner 3-point shooting year back in 2020-21, but simply not a very reliable corner or 3-point shooting option in general. So for simply looking for more defense and the better defensive balancer in my opinion, I probably would go with Jared Vanderbilt. Though my ultimate preference would be simply adding another 3-and-D wing, adding a obvious true 3-and-D option that overall here though with Marcus Smart, definitely can't complain about it. I've been talking about it for weeks that he would probably be my number one buyout target, of the obvious buyout targets anyway, and I'm definitely glad they got him. I knew it would happen sooner than later, I was hoping for sooner rather than later, and it actually did come to that point. Washington waiving him, coming to the contract buyout with Marcus Smart, the Lakers patiently waiting to use their biennial exception and smartly waiting to give that to Marcus Smart too. Offering him likely the most money on the open market. I mean, from the teams off the top of my head that could offer him more, maybe would have been the Golden State Warriors, but they're currently trying to work out the sign and trade with Jonathan Kuminga, trying to work out deals with DeAnthony Melton and Al Horford, so maybe didn't have as much free money to offer him as they would like to, or maybe didn't even want him for that fact too. So that led to him joining the Lakers, probably finding the best spot with their team and likely the best fit and maybe the most playing time for that fact too, which ultimately is a mutually beneficial thing for both parties. Marcus Smart finding a new contender that he fits with, a team that offers him a good role to play, plenty of veterans around him including LeBron, Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, the list goes on and on here, and a team that obviously values what he has to offer. Again, mainly being point of attack defense, plenty of playoff background here, a guy that's probably their new best point of attack defender. If we're not counting Jared Vanderbilt, I guess that's kind of a toss up. You can make your argument one way or another with them, but an obvious defensive upgrade, an obvious veteran upgrade, and a guy that simply can do the dirty work for their team too, which I'm obviously in favor of. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about Marcus Smart hitting the buyout market and not hitting it for very long, as he immediately joined the Lakers thereafter? Do you like the fit? Do you like that the Lakers likely have to waive Shake Milton and Jordan Goodwin to get him? Or are you not a fan of it? Would you have rather them targeted a different player, either through trade, the free agent market, maybe a different buyout candidate eventually? Or are you happy with it and glad they immediately jumped on the opportunity to sign Marcus Smart? Let me know your thoughts and how you feel about it in the comments down below. But I think that will pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.